All right, everyone. So I'm going to break down my watch list for Monday and my game plan for the week ahead. This is going to be our first full week of November, and it's a big week because we have the presidential election. That's going to be on Tuesday. And this is a big election. I mean, for a lot of reasons, every election feels like a big election, but this feels like maybe one of the biggest elections so far because there's so much riding on it. Now, as far as that pertains to how I'm going to trade, that's going to be the focus of this episode. Regardless of where you are in the political spectrum, we know that this is an event that has the potential to create volatility. So let's look at it really through that lens. And I'm not going to try to put any strong opinions on this. I'm just going to share my expectations of what I see from the market. So number one, I think the market has been surging up in the last month because there has been some of these polls, polymarket predictions and things like that, that Trump is going to win. And that is a victory for a lot of S&P 500 companies in the short term because it means they don't have to worry about their tax rates going higher. And in fact, they have a higher likelihood of the tax rates getting cut, which would be great for the bottom line profitability of those businesses. Big investors know this. So if Trump wins, all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, in the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months, we may see higher profitability among these big companies. All right. So that is why I think the market has kind of been rallying into this election. But now we're coming kind of right to the moment of truth. So there's a buy the rumor and sell the news phenomenon that often happens. People get excited about the rumor, the potential, and then when it actually comes to it, they're like, okay, well, I don't know. What does this also really mean? Are there other implications, et cetera, et cetera? Now, I think if Trump wins, I expect the market is going to continue to rally. That's what I expect. Now, I could be wrong, but I expect it because of his economic policies. If Harris wins, we have a couple of problems. Number one, I think the market is going to pull back on the realization that she's likely to increase taxes, which is what Democrats often do. It's just a fact. So likely to increase taxes on those big corporations. That's going to reduce their bottom line profitability. That's going to hurt their performance in the stock market, right? So now investors are going to be thinking, maybe I should take my risk off the table and put it into something that is going to produce a return even in spite of a higher tax environment. Secondly, if she wins, there will no doubt be protests about whether or not she was even the rightful winner. Now, of course, it depends on margins and things like that, but we know what happened in 2020, and I think 2024 will be even bigger for a lot of reasons. So if she wins, that's where I'm a little bit, I'm thinking that we're going to see volatility to the downside through the combination of the realization that those big companies won't be getting tax breaks, and then number two, the potential for civil unrest. To what extent, I don't know, but just that potential, the rhetoric and everything else, things could get a little crazy. So more so than we've seen in other elections in the past. I mean, these last 3 elections that Trump has been part of, each time it's just the rhetoric and everything around it has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's become very divisive between the people on the right and the people on the left. So, we're all coming together to trade the market, regardless of what side of the table you might be on. And it for the sake of trading, there will be volatility. But for me, trading to the long side, and of course, benefiting from a market that goes up, if Harris wins, we're probably going to see we might see at least a tough week. It might be a tough couple of weeks. So that's something to kind of be thinking about for the month of November here. Now, Friday was my first red day. Well, first day of the month of November. It was also a red day, which was really kind of a shame. But anyways, so let me just refresh my import here. So Friday finished down $10,000. All right, I'm rounding up, but whatever, round up, $10,000. So you could see all of a sudden, like, things were kind of slow in September, and then it was like swing. I don't know if that's the right expression, but all of a sudden we got this big move here, and then kind of goes a little sideways, and then like up again. So, all right, well, here I've got the first red day, in the books after this nice long streak of consecutive green days, and some big ones at that. So I think the issue on Friday for me was that I ended up trading, a couple different stocks, and I just didn't, I wasn't able, you could see basically it was just like down, down, down. And then I was like, all right, that's enough. I can see the writing on the wall. I don't need to keep doing this. I don't need to go deeper. COCH was the one that kind of sent me on the beginning of the downward spiral. It's a stock that popped up, had some news, wasn't, I think, a particularly meaningful headline. But, you know, I mean, it had the potential, and it did go. I mean, it went from $3 to $9 and then came all the way back down. So, all right, look, that happens. But then there wasn't much else that I could rebound on. PRSO, I lost $3,000 on that. And then I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm kind of running out of time. I think that the writing is on the wall here and I should walk away. So I walked away. And then, of course, VSTE ends up going up. I mean, how much was it? It was like 300%. This thing goes absolutely crazy. And this was at about 11:30 out of nowhere. You know, I certainly didn't have this on my watch list. I didn't see it coming, but, you know, it ended up going up, you know, 200% there between 12. Was it 12:15 and it was 11:40 and 12:15, I guess, 12:30. So anyways, I didn't trade it. I didn't walk away on Friday with profit, but I did walk away on Friday with discipline. I stuck with my discipline. I did not overstay my welcome. I walked away when I was below my max loss. Now, that's a choice. I could have said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to keep trading anyways. I don't care about max losses. And what I know is that 80% of the time I do that, I double my loss or more. And that's a statistic that I've found in my own trading. So 80% of the time that I trade past my max loss, from the moment I trade past that max loss, 80% of the time I'll double my loss on the day. Now, it's true that there is a small percent, 20% of the time, that I won't. And I'll, in those days, sometimes go all the way back to green, maybe to my daily goal, or just soften the blow. But because I have such a high likelihood of making the loss worse, and significantly worse, it's just not worth it. All right, so anyways, I didn't take any trades on it, but I can still analyze the chart and look at it from my perspective here. So what I see on this is a chart that I would say in hindsight, it's easy to say I would have crushed it. But in reality, you didn't really get a pullback. What kind of happened was it sort of pulled away from 250 up to 350, up to 375, topping tail, pulls back, up to 4, topping tail up to 410, pulls back, up to 420, 450, up to 5, up to 550, all the way to a halt at 6. So that's that pulling away pattern that we sometimes talk about, where it's like kind of not dying, it's sort of grinding, and then it opens up. A bit of a swing there as well, if you will. So it goes all the way up to 6, and then it opens high, dips down off of 6, swings back up to 8, and then you know, kind of knifes back down. So unfortunately, those red candles, especially on higher volume, we don't really like to see that. There was another one there as well. And it ended up just kind of coming back down off these levels. So it's true, we did get back above VWAP, a little bit of an inverted head and shoulders pattern here. But then it wasn't able to rally back to the highs, and we kind of stalled out. So as we closed after hours on Friday, it finished up 141% with 1.28 million share float. Not bad. I mean, really can't complain about that. It's a pretty impressive move. Vast Renewables Limited, in terms of sector, a little bit different from what's been working for us. Honestly, these companies, Australia-based renewable energy company, concentrated solar thermal power, this isn't a super hot sector. So kind of surprised that it did as well as it did. But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. It made a pretty big move. So is it worth watching going into Monday? Well, given that it's not a biotech stock, I kind of don't expect another day of continuation. But it's possible that, you know, Monday morning you'll get a little pop. And what I think will then happen is it'll just kind of fade lower. But look, if it does end up popping and it holds up, then I'm happy to trade it. If it shows the volatility and, you know, it gives me a setup that I can manage risk on, I'm happy to trade it. But I just don't know if that's going to happen. So let's see. Now I was going to pull up the short interest on it just out of curiosity. So VSTE here, 8.5% short interest. Of course, there's no question that the price on shorts spiked massively on Friday. I mean, that always happens when you have a big move. So utilization is 81%. Cost to borrow, it was spiked up 470% on Friday. So, look, the demand for shares to borrow is always going to be high when you have a big spike. If we look at a stock like Drug, which was was something we traded a couple weeks ago, and we look at the short interest on it, you'll see a spike, a dip, and then another spike. So basically what ended up happening was, oh, you know what? That's surprising. Why are they not showing this? That's really... That's very bizarre. So usually what we would see, and for some reason they're just not showing it. I don't know, it's saying not available. But anyways, what we would usually see is that you get this spike in the cost to borrow on the day of the move, and then it drops back down. So for some reason they don't have data on that stock. That's weird. But anyway, so VSTE going into Monday, I don't really think it's going to give us anything. I think most likely if short sellers were kind of analyzing it, they would be thinking it's a short. A stop is if it makes a new high, right? As long as it doesn't make a new high, we're technically on the backside. So the highest risk would be a double top up to 8 and then stop over 8. 635 is another pivot here. So as long as we stay below 635, we stay below 8, then it's kind of in the hands of the bears, and they're going to probably keep walking it down. But you look at the daily chart, and what you can recognize on this is that although it has a history of popping and having red candles from its IPO and then this day here, and then of course, this latest day here is green. It has this history of these days, but it also has a blue sky at 14. So that's not too far away. I just don't think it's the sector where we're likely to see a really big move. And again, this is something that kind of doesn't matter, who gets elected in the short term. These are stocks that have, intraday volatility and will be moving, and there's opportunities to trade it regardless of sort of administration. Now, again, longer term, an environment that's more favorable for small cap companies with lower taxes, lower interest rates. I mean, that's going to help small companies grow. So there are some, some bigger, longer term implications of depending on who wins. But anyway, so that's VSTE. And then beyond that, yes, you had CDXC, but 60 million share float. It was an all-day grinder. It was just grinding all day, so nothing there. ATHA, 238 million shares of volume, but it's a cheap stock, so there really wasn't anything to trade on that one either for me. And, if I look back, VR or FRSE, this one particularly low float, popping up, but there's nothing there. So if I look at my scanners and I look at my after hours top gainers, I'll sometimes check this to see if there's anything I should be watching on Monday morning. So NUWE was up 61% after hours. So it's very possible that this will continue higher. However, I usually find that when something begins after hours, I just have this feeling that I missed the beginning of the move. So unless it's really continuing a lot higher, I wouldn't probably take a lot of interest in it. CVRX up 15% after hours. That's just not really enough. These moves are just all too small. Again, not surprising for a Friday. You don't always have big gappers Friday after hours, so it's not a shock. Continuation scan. I could take a quick look here. Just seeing if there's any familiar names here, but I really don't see anything that I'm interested in on this scan right now. So, the theme certainly in the last couple weeks has been that most days I sit down, and although there may be a stock that I'm watching, continuation on or something like that, for the most part, each day, the stock I end up making the most on is a stock that I didn't even think about, a couple hours beforehand. It's a stock that suddenly at 7:38, 8:39 had breaking news. And the stock spikes up 150% in 5 minutes. We then get the first pullback, and next thing you know, we're up 200, 250, 300, 350, 400%. And, you just have to show up every single day and be ready. And look, it's possible that I'll show up tomorrow and we won't have anything that has big news. We really didn't on Friday. And that was my issue Friday. I ran out of time where I thought I had the highest likelihood of catching a move with news. And I took losses earlier on two setups that didn't work. So of course, I don't want to put together back-to-back red days. So trying to have a green day on Monday is important. Building my cushion to start the day, trying to get myself in the driver's seat, take a couple little base hits. And if I can get myself up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, boom, that's the daily goal. Now, if out of that, we end up getting something that's going crazy, then it could be a terrific day. And you know what? If it's a red day on Monday, my hope is that by focusing those first few trades on smaller size base hits and building my cushion, that the losses, if I have losses on those trades, will be smaller and easier to recover from. So what I'd like to avoid is having a red day on Monday that is equal or bigger in size to Friday's red day. It's okay to have another small red day, but I don't want to have another big red day. So that means those first couple trades, I've got to be a little bit more cautious as I build my cushion. Now, if we had something, first trade, stock pops up, and it is an A quality setup, hands down across the board, perfect for stock selection criteria, and the chart looks great, I'll take the risk. I'm in a spot right now where I've been on such a hot streak that it's not impossible that Friday could be a dud and we're right back at it on Monday morning with, an amazing day. So I'm comfortable taking the risk, but it would have to be something that really looks super, super good for me not to take the approach of just sort of slowly building a cushion first. So anything else, I'm going to take the approach of building that cushion. And, look, you can get some surprise moves out of things that aren't perfectly A quality setups. And I'm happy to trade those with a little bit of smaller size and, make my way up to my daily goal. But I just want to be, a little thoughtful about risk. And I think that's the right move after a red day. So if you had a red day Friday, or maybe you finished last week in the red, I would take a similar approach, right? So it's a new week, new you, new month, really. So of course I'm starting in the red 10,000 on the month, which is actually my worst start of the month I've had this year. But it is what it is. When the market's volatile like this, I'll have big green days and I'll have big red days. Easy come, easy go. So you got to let it, roll off your shoulders, not get bent out of shape about it, and just come back focusing on what typically works the best for you. So, and to trade those just a little more cautiously perhaps than usual while you get your bearings back. So that's the plan here for Monday morning. I hear June scratching at the door, so I better get her. And if you guys want to do a 2-week trial, look, join me for the next 2 weeks. You can watch over my shoulder each day while I'm trading. You'll have my audio video broadcast. You'll have my scanners. You'll have the news feed. Of course, a chat room. You'll have the charts. You'll have everything that I'm using every single day. And you can see what it's like to be part of what I think is perhaps, and this is maybe, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, but perhaps, one of the best momentum trading communities in the universe. And I was going to say the world, but I thought then, why stop there? So if you want to see what it's like to be part of this community, which I, of course, really like, I guess you could say I'm biased, I'd love to have you join. So 2-week trial link pinned to the top of the comments and the description. Come check it out. It's $20. That $20 helps cover some of your market data costs. It actually doesn't cover all of it, but I'm willing to give you guys that 2-week trial for $20 because I know the reality is a lot of you guys are going to do that trial and you're going to realize, wow, this community is awesome. And I want to stick with it and become a full-time member. So, all right, check that out. And I'll remind you as always, trading is risky. My results aren't typical and there's no guarantee you'll find success, whether you trade with me or you learn on your own. So take it slow, manage your risk. And I'll see you guys back here bright and early. I'll be streaming Monday morning for all of our members at Warrior Trading. All right, hope to see you in the chat room.